Hi again, and welcome to the Stimulate Your Relationship Show, where nothing is taboo and nothing is off limits for helping you to stimulate, excite, and reignite your relationship for more fulfillment and fun. I've found when you stimulate your relationship in all kinds of positive ways, your net result is a stimulated, happier, more productive life. So let's get to it. We have an exciting show tonight. Jen Hecht, Chairwoman of the Dating Advisory Board and Dating in Heels, will be joining us. We'll be talking romance and dating. People are looking for love, companionship in all kinds of ways, on and offline. Jen Hecht is one of the best in the business, so look for a stimulating discussion with her. Very excited to announce my upcoming appearance at the Certainty Theater in Carlsbad, California. I'll be teaming up with Marshall Silver, the greatest TV hypnotist, for a 2-day presentation called Unlimited Stimulation, the next level of your intimacy. We always value your point of view, so let us know what's on your mind and what relationship challenges you want us to focus on. Send your comments directly to zev@stimulateyourrelationship.com. This is a great time to think about ways you can stimulate your relationship. So sit back, chill, open your hearts and minds, and consider some ways you can explore and enhance your relationship. Here's today's Rev with Zev moment. I want to take a moment to remind you or make you aware of the pleasure switches, buttons, and circuitry you both have on board your bodies. As the world is about to begin switching on new electronic devices and pushing buttons on our new battery-operated toys, it's a good time to remind ourselves of this often forgotten fact. Long before there were electronics, humans have always had buttons and switches. Yes, human built-in apps powered by complex and wondrous human body circuitry. These buttons and switches serve to turn us on physically and emotionally on and off. We can operate our human buttons by touching them physically or touching them emotionally through our actions and how we communicate to one another. Our human buttons and switches can pull us towards the light of good feelings, intimacy, ecstasy, bliss, and peak well-being experiences, as well as towards the dark, to depression, anger, and hostility. Yes, we have onboard pleasure and pain centers. One thing we don't have on board is telepathy, and I'm glad of that. Still, we can show our spouses what and where these places are and give us detailed instructions so we can stimulate emotionally and physically the areas for maximum pleasure. Doesn't that make sense? Lots of people do feel good things for each other, but wouldn't it be better to be familiar with the pleasure spots emotionally and physically we can stimulate with speech and touch? Something to think about anyway. Take a look at this. We'll be right back to introduce you to tonight's guest.
Scrivo quest'ultima canzone solo per ricordarti, partita.
Welcome back. I invite you to log on to my new website, StimulateYourRelationship.com. Check out my digital courses, get on my calendar for relationship stimulation coaching, and join my list so you can continue to receive helpful ideas to keep it stimulated. You won't be disappointed. And now, let's meet tonight's guest. Hey, Jen. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
Thanks so much for coming out tonight. Really enjoyed being on your show. Back when, it seems like such a long time ago.
No, well, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here.
It's a pleasure. Tell us a little bit about your philosophy about dating. You're a dating coach, people are lonely. I hear about all the time, a lot of lonely people, and they're afraid to date because it's a bit scary.
Yeah, I think the main piece where people get off kilter or get afraid, where they go in that fear-based mindset, is because they actually don't truly know what they want. I've had many conversations with someone say, "Oh, what are you looking for in a partner?"
That's right.
And some of the recent market research that I did, this one girl said, "I just wanted someone to be funny." I'm like, that's it? You know? And there's not a clear, concise way of saying this is exactly what I'm looking for. I mean, take it back to businesses. So core values, mission statements, right? So in business, successful businesses have core values that align with who they're trying to attract as customers, and everybody's on the same page within the organization. So it makes it easier to attract what they want because they know exactly what they have to provide to said clients, right?
This is my mission statement. Meet my mission statement.
Meet my mission statement. So, right, but it makes sense,
But
right?
it's not hit or miss.
It's not hit or miss, because if you can align your core values down to this is what I'm looking for in a partner, and here's how I'm showing up as a partner. So I think that's where the disconnect gets, where there's so many times they'll say, well, I'm looking for someone funny, or well, let's go a little bit deeper. You know, how are those, are you looking for someone who's family oriented? Are you looking for somebody who's, obviously, honesty is a big thing, respect, trust, and you go down the list, and we work with them in the coaching programs to do that, because at that time, it also builds confidence, right? Well, okay, now I really know what I want, so it's easier for me to go out there and pursue it, because I know what are my non-negotiables that I will not, you know, say.
I mean, it's a lot better than, you know, the door opens, you know,
Yeah.
and hello and goodbye.
And hello
You
and
know,
goodbye.
I know lots of those,
Yeah.
you know, where
Oh,
people
yeah.
set people up, you know, she's great, he's great,
Yeah.
dun, 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 open the door and found within 10 minutes a way to escape. I mean, you got to know what you're looking for. It's not like the Twilight Zone where you can,
Right.
where they push the buttons
Yeah.
and this is what's going to come out.
Right.
So tell us about Dating and Heels and the Dating Advisory Board.
Right, so Dating in Heels was born based on building strategies that I learned in the business boardroom. I was vice president of a telecommunications company for 12 and a half years, and then it was bought out, and so I said, okay, let's go full-time, doing this, trying to help people take communication systems that I had in business and apply that to communications in your personal life. And so that was how that came about. And we have several different coaching programs, one being From Your Core, the other one is Personal Advisory Board. So a lot of times when people come out of a divorce, they may have lost friends, family, and they don't have a personal advisory board to help them.
What about the difference between people who come out of the divorce and people who haven't? You know, older, I'm not meaning older, but they just haven't married. They've been busy, they've been working, they've been focusing on their careers and all that stuff.
Yeah. So from a dating perspective or personal advisory board perspective? From both of them?
Yes.
Okay. So from a personal advisory board perspective, it also goes down to who are you surrounding yourself with? Are you surrounding yourself with people that are positive, or are they negative? Because then it comes into, if you're surrounding yourself with negativity, negativity is going to come, especially in toxic relationships. It's a huge thing right now that we deal with, not only from financial abuse to emotional abuse to physical abuse. So for me, I wanted to make sure, okay, we're covering the gamut of helping people deal with that. So by coming up with your core values and your non-negotiables, what you're looking for in a partner. I mean, it's mind-boggling if you really ask, what are you looking for? And to say, well, I maybe want to get married, I maybe want to have kids. You have to, down in your core. But I think a lot of the times people will say, well, I'm trying to please someone else.
So
right?
what's the
Society.
parameters? I mean, what's a good match? So that they feel good.
Right.
This person who you're coaching.
Right.
What,
So to make, how you set it up is once you go through this From Your Core program, right, they'll go down, they'll list exactly what they're looking for. So when doing that, you're pulling all.
What, I'm looking for a thin, I'm looking for.
No, that's not even.
That's not even part of it, right?
That's not even part of it.
This is just the
Yeah, because that's where you get into trouble.
big trouble.
Yeah, big trouble when you go down that route. Right? You got to look at the person's core and their soul. Like, do they have a soul?
I want the bachelor. I want the bachelor,
Yeah.
and also I want the virgin bachelor.
Yeah,
So,
it's like.
and good luck with that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's interesting. But at the same time, if someone says, and I do hear this a lot too, is that someone will say, they check off all my boxes, right? We go down these core non-negotiables, values, you'll go down it, and then you create a value statement from that. So this is what I'm looking for, and my partner will have these qualities, and I'm not going to defer from that. Because if you know, like, I don't want to get married, right? And the other person was said, well, I want to get married, but they check off all these other boxes, that's going to be a huge issue.
Because there's messages. They're sending all these messages, want to do this, but I don't know. What's that? What is that thing they're talking about that, it just doesn't sound right. It sounds kind of off kilter.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, and it just comes back to, like, is that a fear that you have to really look at that, kind of backtrack and reverse engineer it. Like, what is the fear? Is it fear because of a past relationship, or is it true, like, this is, I don't want to do this?
I don't want this person who's like on Tinder every night,
Right,
that kind of
like,
thing. Please,
swiping
please,
right,
sweat
left,
off.
and right. I mean, hello. That's really it. It's become, and that's the other thing. That's the other problem with relationships too. Is it's our whole communication of 3 minutes, and losing attention span, or 3 seconds. It was like 3 seconds. So, everything is fast paced, so your brain is working extra fast anyway, and you're having so many options. It makes it hard to have to keep someone's interest as well, and unless you defined it. But so that can get into some tricky waters there too. So that's why we created Dating in Heels, because we wanted to bring the humanity back to dating. So my co-founder, Eve Monica, created SIPA Socialites. She has high-end events for socialites in the area. I had a background in dating, so I was like, well, let's just, combine
Let's put these people together and let's see what the story is. And is that how it happens?
And that's how it happens.
They're invited.
They're invited. We do dating mixers. We have bachelors and bachelorettes that we do the matchmaking for. We have different packages for them. And that's the thing, is bringing people back together. I mean, there's not a lot of in-person dating events that I've seen that are high quality in the area. I just don't. So we're like, well, let's fix that problem. And so we started it, and we've been doing it, and we do at least one a quarter.
I see them come across. You're pushing them out very well.
Yeah, and we also help with a power networking brunch too for the women as well. So kind of feeds into both. I mean, they're not dating, but it helps.
So stay tuned. We'll be right back with the second segment. See you soon. I have to ask you, I was watching this TV show, and the person on TV show said, people won't date people or be with people because of their political reality, and that they would rather they'd rather have someone who they agree with politically than sex. And that was amazing to me,
Wow.
and it said huge things about our climate and your work and the burden you have in putting people together.
It's very real. And it is prominent out there, and it is posted on multiple dating sites in their profiles, and they are
no Republicans, no Democrats, no this. They say it straight up.
Swipe left if you do not agree with my political views,
and then it's done.
Yeah, and actually, and then it's done. I mean, they don't even get a chance. They could have checked off all the boxes, but based on their political view, they're not even a match, not even a contender. Not even an option.
It's just done. It's just
and it's
closed
not
out.
only,
Next.
Yes. Next. Thank you. Next. But no, it's true. But it also stems to now. It's even going not only political view, where you're working. If you work for a different specific organization, if you work, that's
and they have ties, and who knows, it's not on their correct list.
Right.
Then you're out too.
Yeah.
I mean, it really closes the thing to what do you do with it? You
just have to find the core, because if that is a core value that is important to them, you have to honor that, because that is something that they're looking for. And they're out there. I mean, the amount of people that are out there, I mean, there are matches. It's just a matter of, everyone wants to put someone in a perfect package, but there are ways, like how important, like we rate them, like how important is this on a scale 1 to 10? And always give me your top 3 core values. Like those are there's nothing going to change that. Like this is a non-negotiable, and then we can kind of backtrack it that way.
So what about sex, and what do they say? They had bad experiences, or they bring it up, or is that their business? You know, is that not your business that they bring into it? I mean, I want somebody compatible. Well, you got to figure out if it's compatible. I mean, how do you deal with that?
Well, you know, and we hear a lot of certain times, you know, this is more on the dating talk and seeing that a lot of the problem is people are ghosting, right? Like and they always are like, when is the right time? Is it, you know, some people are like, well, I just want to see if there's a chemistry. And I'm like, it's probably good to wait a few days. You really get to know somebody first, because it really starts with that friendship.
Don't be chomping at the bit.
Yeah.
Just chill.
Yeah.
Relax.
Good things come to those who wait, right?
Like if you go home,
Yeah.
feel good about it. Like,
Yeah.
Or don't feel good
Right.
about it. Call Jen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it depends on what they're looking for, right? So that really comes down to it. Like if they're just looking to meet people to, you know, if they're looking for a serious relationship, it's probably not best to go out of the gate. But it just really depends on where they're at and what they're looking for.
So there's so many dating kiosks, you know, and places to go. How do you deal with that? How do they find you? Find you through like SIP with the socialites, because that's kind of an upper end?
Yeah, well, we do a lot of social media. So even I have an extensive background in social media marketing, SEO, PPC advertising. So we're able to navigate cross-marketing platforms across Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. So by having a diverse marketing portfolio, we're able to attract a lot of people.
What about appropriateness? I mean, do you coach appropriateness?
Yes,
I mean, because
I do.
I mean, people come before you and you're like, I can't put this person before
Yes,
this person. I mean,
yeah.
What do you do? I mean,
You know,
without giving away trade secrets.
Yeah, Trace. Yeah, no. I mean, I always say I bring back let's bring the humanity back to dating. I mean, that's one of our mantras. Let's just be human out there. You know, we talk a lot about, you know, people talk about karma and, you know, how things come back. Like there's dating karma too. So just be human out there, because I think the major thing is this town, especially in DC, I'm sure everywhere, but this town's pretty small. And there's a lot of people that knows a lot of people. So I said, well, you wouldn't ghost a client. So I tie it back to business, right? You wouldn't ghost a client and expect them to do business with you or who they know. You never know, like 3 to 4 degrees down. You don't know who they know. You don't know who they're connected to, right? So I always just say, like, be human out there, be appropriate. Don't get into anything too racy off the bat. Just learn to get to know that person on a human level.
What about, I mean, how is all these crazy apps, you know, like Tinder, how does that affect the date, you know, the Bachelor, Tinder, these kinds of things? People are watching these shows because they're obviously, you know, they're it's about companionship, it's about looking for Mr. or Mrs. Ideal.
Right. I mean, there are a ton of dating apps out there, and it's hard to really kind of filter, except if you know what you're looking for, right? So different apps, I usually say, like, just do not join 10 of them. Join 2, because it is time consuming. And
I hear that. I mean,
yeah,
like,
it's
people
time consuming.
They're like, I talked to this girl for hours and hours and hours, and you know,
Well,
call back, no, you know, and they're all kind of resentful and they're feeling all miserable. You know,
right.
that
Is that
invested
like,
all
was
this
that
time.
someone that was dating them, or like that was in
That
the
was
beginning?
the intros. That was
Okay,
in the phone intros.
Okay,
you know,
so
that kind of thing.
that's the thing is that, you know, these, if you're trying to meet someone, you want, obviously safety first. I mean, that is something we always talk about, safety first, because there's some crazies out there.
No question.
Yeah, so what we say is, okay, you know, if you're talking back and forth, getting to know each other, but it shouldn't be that you're, you know, talking for days with that. I mean, you need to ask them on a date. I mean, that's the whole point. It's not a pen pal, right? It's like,
It's
I mean,
time you gotta step up.
Yeah,
Step
exactly.
up
I mean,
and
there's
ask.
there's a friend app that, you know, different ones have, but this is a dating app. I mean, you're asking them on a date and ask them on a date. So that would be for most of them. But what we say is, like, for instance, it all ties back to what you're looking for. Some are known to be more of a hookup site. Some are
Right.
known to look at more for relationship. It can get super granular too. I mean, think about it. We talk about knowing your target market. I mean, farmers only. I mean, that's brilliant. It was brilliant marketing that they did,
Amazing.
right? Because, you know, I'm a farmer.
Closes it down.
Closes it down. I'm looking to be a farmer, having farming lifestyle. This is where I go.
I live in Cambridge, you know. I live in Easton, and I live on a farm.
Right.
And you know, I'm not a city. You know,
Right.
and it was very smart
Yeah,
of them. What about trauma? A lot of people, I mean, in my business, tremendous amount of traumatized people who have been traumatized in their relationships, and then they're lonely and they go, I want companionship, but they haven't dealt. What do you do? I mean, do you pick that up?
Oh yeah, because we do a lot of that. You'd be
It's a
surprised
huge
how many
thing,
people
and it's bigger
have
than
it.
ever.
Oh yeah, and it's becoming more out in the public, which I'm happy about that people are speaking up about it. But we call it past partner picking. So it usually comes down maybe from the generations if they haven't taught maybe self-worth, if they were in a bad relationship, a toxic environment, someone gaslighting, verbally abusive, financially abusive, physically abusive. I mean, we talk about mental strategy. So what I use, because you know me from tennis, right? I learned visualization at a very young age. And I had a mental strategy coach at a very young age. Now that was geared towards tennis, but it ended up being a huge advantage to me when I was older, because I was able to ignore the negative Nancy's and know my self-worth and not believe what these bullies or whatever that they're saying about me. So we go back to that, strengthen your mind, know what you want, know your core values, and don't bring in past relationships into your new ones. But be aware and cognizant if you start to see these traits that are playing out that you need to reevaluate.
How would you apply dating to married people? The whole idea of dating and getting them to do, there's a role nausea. If somebody doesn't, one of the spouses doesn't plan activity, nothing happens. What's your view, on what would you tell if people who are married about getting out and dating, getting back to it?
They should always be dating, right? Even when you're married, you're in a relationship, doesn't matter. You should always be dating. You should always be going that extra mile. And it comes back to communication. How are you communicating? Is their love language? I love that, love language. And
that's a big thing. You hear the love languages a lot.
Because some people are words of affirmation, some are physical touch. So the more information that you know, the more that you can be successful. Right? Marriage is one of the biggest business mergers you will ever make. You got to put the time and effort into it, because that's where the stalemate comes, where they don't feel heard, they don't feel listened, or you're not doing the little things. I mean, so we did this challenge about bringing home flowers, right? I was on one of our podcasts, and I told one of our guests, and I said, do me a favor, go home tonight, buy your fiance flowers, and just see what happens. He said she cried. She was like, oh my God, thank you so much. She's like, I'm buying flowers every week, right? So it was interesting, because it's the little things, especially for women just want to know that they're appreciated, that you hear what they're saying, and that you do little things for them, notes. I mean, bring home flowers.
Romance.
We're
talking romance.
Hello.
People, go, I'm not very romantic. Well, everybody can be romantic.
You can Google it. You can
Google
romantic ideas.
You can find a way to be, everybody has a little bit, even, the ones that go, my spouse isn't romantic.
Yeah.
Personally, I think everybody can be romantic. It takes a little practice.
Yeah, just a practice, making dinner
and
one
resources,
night.
and you can figure it out.
Exactly.
All right, so that's all the time we have tonight. Jen, thank you.
No, thank you.
Very informative and really cool, and the right person doing the right job. To find out more about Jen Hecht, contact Jen Hecht is there a website?
Yes, so you can reach me at thedatingadvisoryboard.com.
Say it again,
thedatingadvisoryboard.com.
And does Dating in Heels have that also?
Yeah, and datingandheels.com as well.
All right, so you'll learn how to gear up your dating life in 2019. My relationship consulting and coaching practice has allowed me the unique privilege and opportunity to work with couples with a wide array of relationship challenges, including infidelity, communication, sexual concerns, both face-to-face in Maryland and virtually all over the world through my online relationship stimulation coaching practice. I invite you to find out more about how I can help you stimulate your relationship through free resources, online virtual courses, and couples consultation services. So log on and get the scoop. Get in touch with me and let me help you transform your relationship into a truly stimulating and exciting adventure. You can begin to reconnect for a deeper, more exciting relationship. Please check out all my social media platforms. I'm live on Facebook. Tune in and you'll find ways to stimulate your relationship into the relationship that you want it to be. So we'll leave you tonight with a few ways that you can stimulate your relationship. Say and write special thoughts to each other. Be creative in your message and delivery. Reduce or eliminate yelling and anger. They push your partner away. It's scary when people yell. Increase soothing words. People love to be soothed. And behavior. And that draws us to understanding and intimacy. Take time out of every day and think like a lover. It can lead to intimate fireworks. Finally, try asking yourself, what's right with my relationship? Instead of always focusing on what's wrong. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Zev Halpern. See you next time for a jam-packed new episode of Stimulate Your Relationship. See you then.